Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're going to give everyone a couple minutes to jump on. And as we do that, I'm going to offer a brief introduction. If you are new, welcome. If you're joining us again, it's great to see you. I'm Isabel Hendricks. I'm Content Marketing Manager here at Opkey. I'm joined by our VP of Product Solutions, Dimpy Sharma. Today, we will be going over actionable testing strategy tips and important changes that are coming specifically in Oracle Cloud's 24C release. Now, this release is one of Oracle Cloud, also known as Oracle Fusion's quarterly releases, and Opkey has a sweet spot of we have Dimpy, who is an expert in quarterly updates. And we've gone through a lot of information from Oracle to really distill the most important changes that you need to know about as you go into testing this release. So today we'll be covering not only examples of changes, but how exactly AI-enabled test automation can change the game in terms of your testing processes for these releases. We hear from a lot of customers from companies across many different industries that testing bottlenecks occur at these quarterly updates, and this can cause disruption to business processes and really cause a headache that you don't want your team to experience. A few housekeeping things. We will be taking questions. You can go ahead and pop them in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. There will be a question section at the end. There will be a short demo at the end. And we'll also be sending all of you out a recording of the webinar. So if you feel that you missed anything, we'll go ahead and send that out to you. We also want to make clear that not every single change coming in 24C will be covered in this webinar. If you want to see a comprehensive list of changes, please go to our website and download Opkey's 24C advisory document. We have both a summary version and a much longer version. It also includes why you'll love the changes, highlights, and testing tips again. So let's see, without much further ado, we've got people jumping on. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Dimpy.
Thank you, Isabel, and thank you so much, everyone, for making the time today. Oracle Cloud 24C release it is, and it's a big one. There are multiple changes that are coming in. We all know a lot of Redwood changes are impacting some of our modules. Changes in terms of whether to choose and stay on responsive, whether to opt for some of these enhancements, new enhancements, AI-enabled changes, search changes, some of these Gen AI related changes. All of that is coming up as part of 20C. It's overwhelming, but we've got you in terms of what you should be expecting, what the overall best practices look like, how things are changing, things are changing module by module. Our advisory gives you a detailed information of all of these things, and plus, what are we doing to help overall from a release testing and regression testing perspective from quarterly updates. We're going to cover all of that. Critical schedule. Most of our customers and we know the prospects and Oracle customers are essentially under the Cadence 2. Cadence 2 is release coming up on this weekend, 3rd of August. So we're expecting a lot of changes and a lot of release related testing coming up in the next week. A lot of these changes have come essentially in the HCM side of the house. But we're going to talk about these changes one by one. I definitely want you guys to look at some of these technical changes. These are highly important for you to know what are the changes that are coming up from a release notes perspective and how it is actually linked to the transactions and the forms and how it's actually going to affect your end-to-end processes on a day-to-day basis. So we'll talk about that and then we'll map it with what Opkey is going to give you and how it's going to give you all of these changes part of its advisory. So that's critical. And then obviously we're going to talk about in detail what are the best practices, what methodology you should follow, how it's going to affect you, how you should make sure that you are absolutely free from these changes and you have a supreme regression test out for the next week batch. ERP financials. For the invoices that we imported through IDR, the intelligent document recognition, there was an option to only process the specific account charges. It didn't include freight. Now it includes freight as well. It is significant, but this is a new option, right? So from a process perspective, this has changed. If you were doing a freight charges specific to your account separately, you can include that just part of this particular IDR and invoice creation. So that's very helpful. As treatment authority under the S treatment process, earlier did not allow you to create the invoice and transfer the amount then and there. Now, while you have done the S statement, you can directly go and create an invoice as well. Again, very helpful from a business process standpoint. It is going to change. Yes, it's a big change. From a testing standpoint, whoever is using automated testing, this is definitely going to be a change. If you want to kind of use it from this particular option, the previous, I mean, obviously you can go ahead and create a new invoice separately as well. So it's not a mandatory, but it's a good change from a process perspective. It is definitely going to squeeze some of your time, so it's important. Most of the changes have come in human capital, so don't be surprised if we only cover a few of them, right? So ERP financials only had these two major changes, so that's the reason we have covered that. Obviously you can go through our advisory and look for all the detailed changes across multiple different forms and different sub modules. But moving to HCM, redwood documents, we know that the last patch, the redwood documents and this particular screen got enabled. Now there's a change on this redwood screen as well, where you can have your documents record part of the, you can add a URL to your documents page as well. Very helpful, but it's a new tab. So that would definitely mean that your business process and your testing scripts and your test scenarios, if you're writing manual, all of that would get changed. Certain tasks like family and emergency contacts, skills and qualifications, document records, that have been now introduced under embedded application task in journeys. Journeys, as you know, from the last three patches, journeys have been introduced. It's a huge change. There are multiple tasks that you're creating from a HCM, core HR, on the ESS, MSS, directly on your learning module platform. So there are a lot of changes that are coming under journeys. This is a significant change because these two fields are going to make sure that that particular transaction is modified. So we'll have to go and modify in our automated script as well. Under HCM, again, a suggested feature. It's a cool feature. If when you're managing your training suppliers and if you search, there's a good streamlined search result coming up now. Look at the search here. It's 20 seating capacity, and everything related to 20 seating capacity from a classroom perspective, it immediately pops up. So, I mean, the overall experience is enhanced when it comes to a cool, intuitive search feature, and that's what it is. Supply chain, you have cycle count approvals under tasks. It wasn't there, and as part of the Redwood experience, this is now introduced, and you can obviously see, right, all the modules, pretty much all the modules, Redwood is introduced. There are issues under Redwood pages, but the enhancements are also getting done in the pages that were introduced in the last few patches. It's significant. I mean, the amount of effort that's actually going on into Redwood pages and how people are adopting it and how the changes are coming up in these changes, it's absolutely crazy at this point, right? So what we really need to do from a testing perspective, obviously we're going to cover a lot of that from a best practices perspective, but the earlier we adopt to these enhancements and we make sure that that's part of our testing strategy overall, even if you want to make it like more agile, just go ahead and add that. Another one, again on the Redwood pages, you can now access the new pick wave from the inventory management work area, again using Redwood, and create pick waves directly for manual requests. It wasn't part of the previous release. New pick wave is now part of Redwood pages, and you can directly use it from inventory management, so that's a big plus. Another one, you can now create, edit, and search for workstations. So these are physical locations where your manufacturers are executing their work orders and overall operations and all the transactions related to operations. You can now create, edit, and search right at the same time. From a testing perspective, this is a boon. I mean, as much as we can add the CURD operations as part of one particular screen and one form, it's only helpful. So we have all of these CURD operations right at this screen of workstation. So that's good. With this, we've just covered some of these major changes, and that brings us to the advisory document. At the end of the webinar, obviously, you'll get the recording of the overall webinar, and then you'll also receive an advisory document which will lay out all these changes in much more detail across all the modules, sub-modules. What do they affect? What are these changes? How it's going to impact your business processes? So you can look around all of that information part of your advisory document. Now coming to some of these best practices. What is the methodology that you need to follow is something that we try to stress when we talk about best practices. I've spoken about this multiple times, and I can't stress enough how important coverage plays a role when it comes to patch validation, when it comes to regression testing, when it comes to accommodating all of these changes part of your regression suite. Please note that the overall intent of what we are trying to stress to our customers every single quarter, coming up with these release changes and making sure that we do a webinar around it, and we kind of educate our customers, Oracle customers and our own customers around it, is the idea of making sure that the regression test suites are updated. And then the overall purpose and objective then becomes that, do we want a risk-free production environment or no? And that's the overall intent. If we have a test bed which is continuously updated, which is really current with the overall enhancement requests and really current with the test coverage and how you're assessing the test and how you're making sure that everything is as comprehensive as it should be, part of your configurations and linking with the configurations, you're good to go. And if that regression suite stays current and you're good with the coverage, we are doing this methodology absolutely right. There's no point of following some of these big checklists if the coverage is not intact. So that's the overall intent of making sure the test coverage is aligned. So that's number one. Assessing the risk and changes. So you see here, we talk about creating the priority test scenarios, making sure that you do the change impact assessment. All of that is linked to how do you assess the change. It's one thing that you have your regression test suite updated. It's another thing that you actually know what are the impacted areas upfront. If you know these are the impacted test scripts, you are able to immediately heal them, use them, and first get rid of them from a testing perspective, validate them, get that going, and then you can move to your end-to-end regression suite. Then, last but not the least, actually second last, is going to be reporting. Making sure that the reporting is intact, making sure the documentation is intact, making sure the everything that you take out from a test suite perspective, whether it is the first regression suite execution report, whether it is a change assessment report, whether it is a risk assessment report, whether it is the documentation of the issues that is reported, all of that needs to come in a form of documentation that is able to take care of the audit and compliances. B is able to take care of any kind of training that's going to follow for the team members following the next patch. Very, very critical. Obviously, the patch gives us an opportunity to validate and make sure that production environment is tested. But if we're going to do that, not taking care of the processes in place and in a way which is like more monkey testing or haphazard, it's just going to create a lot of misalignments between the team. And one of a big issue that we're trying to solve from some of the best practices that we're trying to educate people with is to avoid some of these collaboration issues that we get into between teams. And that's a big issue to tackle with when it comes to patch validation and any kind of release testing, which is so critical and which is so time bound, such as this. Last but not the least is preparation of the environment. Huge problem when it comes to assessing how the environment should look like. When it comes to making sure the environment is prepped or not, we cannot get into a regression patch validation Monday, not making sure that the environment has the right accesses post refresh, not making sure that the environment accesses across modules are working, not making sure that you are ready with the data prep. Unless we are done with these three, all of the other best practices that are related to this is just going to fall apart. So this is going to be the key prerequisite, and this is something that we share with our customers as well. And we keep on stressing how important pre-patch becomes in an overall patch update process. And that's exactly what it is. And that's exactly what we are stressing in our Oracle patch release as well. This is some of the details against how you should prep your environment, right? So non-prod environment, and this is before the patch, how that gets updated, how you, now this is where the entire testing is going to happen. This is done. The third Friday is production environment updated, and then we can't really change a lot of this stuff, especially from a testing perspective, right? Most of the stuff will actually, it's a forced update. So it directly goes to the production, and we can't really control that. What we can control from this point to the next 2 weeks as to how our reporting is going to be done, how our access validation is going to be done, how our security validation is going to be done, what the baselines of the patch is going to dictate. All of the pre-activities happen minus this week. All of the post activities on the testing is going to happen in this first week and the second week, the week after. Week after is generally, from an Opkey's perspective, we really don't recommend going. We try to achieve the certification in about 3 to 4 days for our customers, and we make sure that rest time is really dedicated towards making sure that the issues are resolved. If there are SRs that need to be created, back and forth, re-execution, so we need to have that time on our hands to make sure those activities are also aligned and planned. Again, planning and predetermining update impact, you would see how critically we are stressing upon this planning phase. And this is all related to the pre-patch activities, everything which is minus the patch day, right? So understanding the processes, making sure that there are any priorities we need to set on the regression that needs to happen. All the baselines related to security, roles and privileges, baseline related to the transactional impact, baseline related to the overall access validation, making sure that the module level access is also in place, and then taking care of all the integration prerequisites as well. What are the APIs that we are going to test? What are the integrations that we are going to test? Is this third application that is connected to in an outbound or inbound way to the Oracle application, is that connected? Is that okay from an access perspective? If do we have all the roles and responsibilities assigned from that application perspective? So all of that needs to be predetermined and pre-updated as part of our planning phase. And yeah, and we're pretty much done with the patch once we do it. We have been working on multiple customers, over 90 plus customers that we're serving right now, and we help them achieve the certification in about 3 business days. And that's our big value add that we are able to help them achieve. And we are able to achieve that by using process mining. We lean towards testing more using the process mining engine, and that's why we call it more test discovery and test mining. We're going to take a look at that as part of our demo as well. We have a self-configuring engine, which means that we have really taken away all the effort when it comes to data prep, when it comes to understanding the configurations and having these modified data sets directly going into the system. Doing a real-time assessment of the change impact, again, very critical to assess what has modified in this patch. Rather than testing everything from the scratch, we actually know the pointed areas that are impacted. And Opkey has a specific user uh, feature and an overall system and a product solution only available for patch update to make sure that this event is successfully delivered to our customers. We take care of the pre-update advice, and that's something that you're going to receive as well. Day one impact assessment to make sure that the risk testing is in place, updating the certification within 3 business days. That's accomplished using an automated way of data preparation, making sure that you're able to assess new features and new functionalities using new ERs and the configuration analysis that we do. We call it configuration mining. Security and validation report assessment. This is again an impact assessment, but on security role validation. All of that is accomplished using our pre-built accelerator library. So that becomes a driver in making sure that all of this is accomplished automatically. Key business benefits, again, making sure that the certification gets completed in 3 business days, one of the biggest business benefit that we chase. We make sure that the coverage absolutely stays current basis the changes that Oracle has provided from a application and product perspective. And if there are any configuration related changes, how that's getting accommodated to the test suite as well. Making sure that all these data combinations again remain current and are updated successfully to the test scripts, hereby making sure that our customers achieve the test coverage that they're slated to. There are no defects, and then the profit, everything else just takes care of itself as soon as these 2 things are taken care of. We are on to the next, to our demo. This is our product demo that we have, and we'll talk about all of these features in detail when we look at the product demo as well. But feel free to drop in any questions that you guys have on the questions box, and we're going to take care of that after the demo. This is our product. There are a couple of features on the product. We are absolutely AI enabled at this point. So all of our test suite generation, data generation, test case creation, execution, we try to have our customers operate using AI to take care of all the recurring issues and the recurring time that they're spending right now. QLM, Opkey's own test management platform, which is more ERP centric. to make sure that you have all the templates in place, all the implementation processes in place, right from onboarding to the patch certification, to make sure that you know what are the events that need to be performed from an automation perspective. So there are like no back and forth, and everything is around process and technology. Then Opkey's test mining, we're going to take a look at that. We're on the test discovery space where this is a process mining solution where you can select your environment, you can select the process that you're going to mine, any process that you select. Once you select the process mining asks you for a duration. Again, this is process mining solution, right? So we are going to mine the process logs, the transaction logs, and the configurations to come up with a test mining of how the system is working for that process right now. So this is the payables process. And if you look at the center part of my screen, it has assessed how you are executing a payables process, an account payables process in your Oracle instance at one particular point. And then basis that, if your consultant manually, automatically, in whichever way, they are using these different paths, all the unique paths get created here. This we call as mind scenarios. Anything that you're doing as is directly converts into itself into test scenario. So this is one test scenario. Likewise, you have all the 151 mind test scenarios the way you're performing right now. Again, expanding the coverage to the way you're doing it today. And then Opkey does a gap analysis to suggest that these are the tests that you're not testing, and these are the suggestions that we make that you should be testing as a gap analysis. Again, expanding the test coverage. We are also creating the test data. So we generate the configurations automatically using configuration mining. All the configurations are assessed and mined automatically to generate data sets. Once the data sets in this way, all the data sets get created, these data sets directly go into the test scripts. We are able to automate these test scripts. These test data sets directly go into these test scripts to create the test automation script using the pre-built test libraries. So all of these test scenarios are connected with the pre-created automation components at the backend. Once that gets linked, the data directly goes into the automation script and you are ready for the test execution. This is the power of test discovery that allows you to look at the changes that have been done on the instance again and again based on different patches, are able to create the test suite automatically, are able to update the test data automatically, and then the test script and the test data gets generated like this. This is the test script that gets generated. The test data sheet gets created with the test data set that was connected to it, and we're good to go. Good to go for the executions. Also, from a change perspective, this is the impact assessment. So as soon as, in order to get a risk assessment report, you can compare it with either two releases or two snapshots. So for example, if you want to have an impact assessment done between 24B and 24D, we would select two different releases or two different snapshots to compare. As we do that, this is how an impact assessment would look like. You can go look at the impact, see the transactions that are affected, go to that particular change, before and after. All the different fields that are modified across two different environments get showed up here. This field was removed from the previous instance. There are multiple fields that get mandatory, non-mandatory. The data type gets changed. Anything that gets modified on that particular tab, everything gets located. Based on that, for the QA team, they immediately know these are the tests that are affected. They can create a risk test suite, and this is done. We also, before you actually start to execute, we make sure that our customers heal their components. So based on these changes, Opkey is going to assess that, oh, okay, this is the automated component that is affected because of this change. You can select that, heal, that particular component gets modified. I hope this was helpful. Now we can take some of your questions as well.
Dimpy, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. All right, a reminder, if you have any questions, pop them in the box at the bottom. We'll start with a few here. Can you speak a little more to impacts coming across HCM? Is there anything we should focus on in particular?
Well, Redwood across learning in particular, only because it's going to close all the responsive by 24D. So that's the note that we have received from Oracle. So if you're prioritizing all of your sub modules, you should definitely prioritize learning as a module.
Thank
That's
you.
one, and I think do go through. Just to add, do go through our advisory as well. Other than learning, there are multiple changes that are mentioned in the advisory doc, other than the ones that we discussed here, and you can find a lot more details in there.
Absolutely. We also have an HCM specific blog about 24C on Opkey's site, so please check that out as well. Next question is also related. It's talking about Redwood. So the question is, my team is new to understanding the impact of Redwood. Broadly speaking, how much time do we have until Redwood is fully implemented?
25B is last I heard, and then I also heard that they're going to push it to 25D as well to close this. So that's pretty much the ultimatum that we have to kind of get all our pages moved to Redwood. But I would really recommend that by 24D or 25A at the max, please try to move every patch, some of your pages and some of your transactions to Redwood. Otherwise, it will keep on accumulating, and having all the business processes or all the different modules, it will be a big task to kind of move it at one particular point.
We also have information on Redwood. We have multiple blogs and a downloadable asset on that. So please check that out. All right, next question. I'm intrigued by the use of Wilfred. Can you explain a little more what exactly he's used for and why Opkey designed him?
Oh, sure. That's our AI bot, Wilfred, to take care of all the recurring stuff that you do around test script development, finding a test script, making sure creating your test suites, looking for certain reports, dashboards, etc. Some of the tasks that could be like really automated. So we're currently using it for that, but the idea is really I mean, that's our roadmap and we're working on it, which is to make sure that from an instruction of a business requirement, you are able to generate more and more test cases directly. So it will go look for those test cases part of our repository, directly create those test cases, look for the data set, mine the data set, and then create test suites. The idea is to kind of make sure that 70% of the stuff gets done by the bot. But right now, it's used for all the navigation and management related activities on the platform.
Absolutely. Okay, next question. Is change impact analysis an optional feature or is this built into Opkey's platform?
It's built into Opkey's platform. So if you're opting for Oracle test automation, you'll have the change impact analysis part of it.
We have time for one or two more. Last chance to pop them in. All right. Specifically asking about Oracle financials. We've had difficulty with bottlenecks at quarterly updates. Do you have any recommendations about how we can test better? 24C should be our best one yet, but we're still behind schedule. So I assume this person is not using automation. Maybe they
Yeah,
want to clarify, but go ahead.
yeah. Yeah, I think I assume that too, that you might not be using automation. And at this point, I think the way digital transformation is going, the way changes are coming from cloud update perspective, not only in Oracle and multiple other applications as well. I think switching to automation is going to be your first pick. And now, then obviously you can look around for what are your best options. The idea really is to have the test suite current. A lot of these defect leakages that we see, it's only because that particular process was not prioritized as part of the regression test. If it was, and sometimes it's not even that, right? Say you had prioritized that business process and you were testing it for your primary business unit. What if you had four more? And what if you didn't have the resources and the time manually to kind of even reach that particular stage that you could go to that particular legal entity and test that? So some of these risks are just like wishful thinking, right? We won't get an issue for this particular business unit. I mean, how does it matter? And it is only valid for a primary business unit. I would really recommend that. I mean, this trap would be, and we have all gone through this trap, so I can completely understand that. All we need to make sure is that we whatever is under control, from a business unit perspective, from a process perspective, test scenario, the coverage, everything is configured in the system, should be converted into test script, as simple as that, and should be tested.
Absolutely. Thank you. And again, a lot of these questions can also be answered by our sales team by requesting a demo or by going on Opkey's site. All right, we have time for one more question. Panir says, my team is a little intimidated by the use of AI. You don't have to go into all of it, but how can we be ensured that however the models are trained would not impact our security?
We first need to acknowledge, yes, it's an issue, right? People are overwhelmed with this, the security concern, and we have also put out some of our blogs and articles around how we are helping our customers safeguard that, and how we're doing it in a more regulated way. So please do check that out. Yeah, I can speak to, from our leadership perspective, organization charter is something that we prioritize that more than any feature, any solution that we introduced. So the first idea is to kind of make sure that the data is safeguard, and we use all our models and all our training models and everything using the demo environment that we have, and the experts that work for us training those models. So that's something that we go by, and then use that for our customers to make sure that if their efficiency is increased. So that's a long and the long where we go from an AI perspective. Outside of that, there are multiple ways of even assessing what are the different AI features that the platform or the tool that you're opting for is using, and then kind of getting connected to them rather than just going blind. So these are definitely one of some of the considerations that you need to check. I would say opt for these Gen AI options from Oracle, basis the kind of value add it is going to provide to your business process, and then opting for it. From an outside tool perspective, obviously security and compliance can be first, followed by the the kind of data that is getting exposed to it. So all of that will become part of the security and compliance that you do for your AI.
Absolutely. We have some thought leadership. Actually, there is one blog published by our CEO specifically about AI governance. So I highly recommend you check that out. It's something that's been top of mind across our organization since the beginning. So it's definitely something that has been strongly considered and built for. All right, that brings us to time today. Thank you so much, everyone who joined. We really appreciate your time. And again, Dimpy, thank you for your expertise and just breaking down what can often seem like an overwhelming change into manageable steps. So thank you again, and everyone have a beautiful and safe day. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.